They say stone doesn't bleed. But on one night in 1204, deep within the heart of Constantinople, the stones of Hagia Sophia seemed to cry out, not from war, but from something far worse. This wasn't a battle. This was desecration. A night when the holiest church in the Eastern world, God's own house, was violated by those who claimed to fight for him. What happened in Hagia Sophia that night wasn't just a footnote in the annals of war. It was the moment when Christendom turned on itself, when the cross devoured the cross. And no one, east or west, was ever the same again. The Fourth Crusade was never meant to end in Constantinople. Originally, the Pope's call had been clear: free the Holy Land, reclaim Jerusalem. And yet, through a toxic brew of political ambition, Venetian manipulation, unpaid debts, and blind greed, the warriors of Christ found themselves at the gates of a Christian empire, the Byzantine capital, shining like a jewel of heaven. On April 12, 1204, the unthinkable began. Byzantine soldiers stood on the ancient walls, their golden icons and relics glinting beneath smoke-darkened skies. Below them, Crusader knights, armored in steel, waving crimson crosses, surged forward not against Muslims, but against fellow Christians. The towering gates of Constantinople cracked and crumbled. The city, once thought impregnable, fell to betrayal from within and ferocity from without. Then came the pillaging. Not hours, not even a single day, but 3 whole days of looting, burning, and blood. They raided churches, tore gold from altars, smashed mosaics that had watched over emperors and saints for nearly 1,000 years. They violated women, killed priests, and shattered the sacred silence of a city that had once been the beating heart of Christendom. And at the center of this storm stood Hagia Sophia. For centuries, it had been more than a church. It was the very soul of the Eastern Empire, a place where emperors were crowned, where the heavens opened during liturgy, and where marble whispered the voices of angels. But that night, it became a hell. The Crusaders stormed the church with blood still wet on their swords. Horses, yes, horses, were ridden into the sanctuary, their hooves clattering on ancient marble. They defiled the altar, a slab consecrated by centuries of faith, with filth and mockery. One chronicler claimed a prostitute was dragged to the pulpit, lifted high above the crowd, and made to dance as soldiers laughed and drank the stolen wine of the Eucharist. They tore down icons and relics, bones of saints, fragments of the true cross, shipped them westward, trophies for their crimes. Chalices were melted. Silk vestments became cloaks for the looters. Even the golden dome, which once shimmered like the heavens themselves, now echoed with screams. And then, a silence. Not peace, not reverence, but that awful, heavy stillness that follows only after the sacred has been violated. Those who survived described the moment as an apocalypse, a second fall of Rome. And for the Byzantine world, it was the city's population, once numbering in the hundreds of thousands, was reduced to scattered, broken souls. Fires consumed libraries that held secrets of the ancient world. Nuns and priests were slaughtered or enslaved. The Latin Empire was declared, but its throne sat on ashes. Even the Crusaders seemed stunned. Some cried, others wrote of shame, but it was too late. The great wound had been opened, and it would never close. Back in Rome, Pope Innocent III was furious at first. He condemned the attack, called it sacrilege. But when the wealth began to pour in, relics, gold, holy artifacts from the East, his fury softened. After all, hadn't the East always resisted papal authority? Perhaps some reasoned this was divine justice. But the Greeks saw it differently. To them, the Latins were no longer brothers in Christ. They were invaders, heretics, and the memory of that night, that unholy night, became a scar that ran deeper than any sword. For centuries afterward, the Eastern Church remembered 1204 not as a crusade, but as a betrayal. Even today, among Orthodox Christians, the word Franks carries not glory, but contempt. And Hagia Sophia, though it would eventually be restored, though its golden dome would rise again in defiance of history, it would never truly be the same. The angels in the apse, once believed to sing eternally to God, were said to have fallen silent after that night. And some whisper that on certain nights, if you step into the vast emptiness of that dome, and the light catches the marble just right, you might hear the echo, not of hymns, but of hooves, laughter, and the distant weeping of a church that remembered everything. What happened that night wasn't just a military conquest. It was a civilizational fracture, an act of violence against something intangible. Faith, unity, sacred memory, and it asks a question that still haunts us. What happens when those who claim to fight for God forget what they were fighting for